You're standing in your garden at 6 in the morning. The coffee is getting cold on the porch railing. You are not doing anything in particular, just looking, checking if the tomato changed color overnight, noticing that the basil needs water, feeling the soil with your fingers to see if it is still moist from yesterday. And somewhere in those 3 minutes of silence, something shifts inside you. The tightness from yesterday loosens. The noise in your head dims. You walk back inside and you are, somehow, more patient, more present, more yourself. Your family does not know what just happened. You probably do not know either, but something did happen. And it turns out that this small, quiet daily ritual is one of 7 specific signs that the people who garden carry a form of emotional intelligence that most of the modern world has lost. Not book intelligence, not career intelligence, something older, deeper, and far more useful in the kind of world we actually live in. Today, you're going to learn the 7 signs of high emotional intelligence that show up consistently in people who garden. And some of these will surprise you because they look nothing like what self-help books tell you emotional intelligence is supposed to look like. The first sign is something you probably do without thinking about it. You regulate your emotions through physical action instead of mental analysis. Most people, when they are stressed or upset, try to think their way out of it. They replay the conversation, they analyze the problem, they journal, they vent, they scroll. All of these are attempts to process emotion through the mind. And for most people, it works poorly. The thoughts go in circles, the stress stays. You do something different. You go outside, you pull weeds, you turn compost, you water something. You do not try to solve the emotional problem directly. You let your hands work, and somewhere in the process, the problem shifts on its own. You come back inside, and the thing that felt unbearable an hour ago now feels manageable. This is not avoidance. Dr. Kelly Lambert, a neuroscientist at the University of Richmond, spent years documenting what she calls effort-driven rewards. When the hands are engaged in physical work that produces a visible result, the brain shifts from ruminative processing to active processing. Rumination is the loop that keeps stress alive. Active processing breaks it. You're not avoiding the problem when you go to the garden. You are giving your brain the only environment where it can actually process the problem efficiently. That is emotional intelligence in its most practical form. No framework needed, no worksheet, just soil and hands and time. The second sign is one that most people in your life misread completely. You're comfortable being alone for extended periods without feeling lonely. You can spend 3 hours in the garden by yourself and come back more socially recharged than if you had spent those 3 hours at a party. That sounds paradoxical, but it is not. Loneliness is not the absence of people. Loneliness is the absence of connection. And you're connected out there, just not to humans. You are connected to living systems, the plants, the soil, the ecosystem around you. The biologist E.O. Wilson called this biophilia, the innate human need to bond with other living things. Most people in the modern world satisfy this need only through pets or other humans. You satisfy it through an entire garden. Your threshold for loneliness is higher because your sources of connection are wider. That is not antisocial. That is a broader emotional bandwidth. The third sign shows up in how you handle failure. The frost came and killed your tomatoes. The squash got powdery mildew. The seeds you started in February never germinated. And you did not quit. You did not catastrophize. You felt it, you processed it, and you planned what to do differently next season. You might have even planted something new in the same bed within days. Most people experience failure as a verdict. It happened, therefore something is wrong with me. Gardeners experience failure as a season. It happened, therefore I adjust and try again. This is not toughness. This is a fundamentally different relationship with loss that the garden teaches through repetition. You have lost crops so many times that your nervous system no longer treats loss as catastrophic. It treats it as cyclical. And that recalibration, the ability to absorb a loss without being destabilized by it, is one of the highest forms of emotional resilience that exists. The fourth sign is subtle, but once you see it, you cannot unsee it. You notice small changes that other people miss. The tomato leaf that is slightly more yellow than yesterday, the soil that is a shade lighter, meaning it is drying out, the new bud that appeared overnight on the pepper plant, the sound of the bees that shifted from one bed to another. You are constantly reading your environment at a level of detail that most people reserve for reading faces. This is not obsessiveness. This is perceptual sensitivity, the ability to detect subtle changes in a complex system. Research in environmental psychology has shown that people who regularly interact with natural environments develop sharper observational skills and broader attentional awareness. You are not just growing food. You're training your brain to notice what others overlook, and that skill transfers. The person who notices a slight color change in a leaf is also the person who notices when a friend's tone shifts, when a child is quieter than usual, when something in the room is off. The garden trained your attention. Your relationships benefit from it. The fifth sign is one that you practice every single day without ever calling it by its name. You delay gratification naturally and consistently. You planted a seed in March. You will not eat the tomato until August. 5 months between action and reward. In a world engineered for instant feedback, where every app, every notification, every purchase delivers dopamine in seconds, you voluntarily chose to wait 5 months for a tomato. And not only did you choose it, you enjoyed the waiting, the checking, the watching, the slow, almost imperceptible progress. Delayed gratification is one of the strongest predictors of long-term life success. The famous marshmallow study at Stanford showed that children who could wait for a second marshmallow went on to have better outcomes across nearly every measurable dimension of life. You are not waiting for a marshmallow, you are waiting for a zucchini, but the neural circuit is the same, and you exercise it daily across dozens of plants, across entire seasons, year after year. Your patience is not a personality trait. It is a muscle that the garden built. The sixth sign is the one that makes people around you slightly uncomfortable because they cannot do it. You sit with uncertainty without needing to resolve it immediately. You planted the seeds, you watered them, you did everything right, and now you wait. You do not know if they will germinate. You do not know if the frost will come. You do not know if the rain will be enough. Instead of spiraling into anxiety about all the things you cannot control, you just continue. You check, you adjust what you can, and you let the rest happen. This is called tolerance of ambiguity, and it is one of the rarest emotional skills in modern adults. Most people need certainty to feel safe. They need the answer before they can relax. You have learned through hundreds of planting seasons that certainty does not exist in living systems. The weather will do what it does. The soil will respond how it responds. You can influence, but you cannot control. And instead of that making you anxious, it makes you calm. Because you have practiced surrendering control so many times that your nervous system no longer panics when the outcome is unknown. Research at the University of Michigan by the psychologists Rachel and Stephen Kaplan showed that regular interaction with natural environments, particularly gardens, significantly improves cognitive flexibility and reduces the need for rigid certainty. You are not just growing food. You are growing the ability to function calmly in a world that offers no guarantees. The seventh sign is the one that ties all the others together. You understand at a level deeper than words that care is not a weakness. You kneel in the dirt every day to tend something fragile. You check on living things that cannot ask for help. You worry about frost, about water, about disease, about creatures that might eat what you grew. You invest months of attention into something that might not survive. And you do it again the next year, and the next. In a culture that rewards detachment, efficiency, and emotional distance, you chose care. Daily, sustained, vulnerable care for things that cannot thank you, cannot pay you, and might die despite your best efforts. That is not sentimentality. That is the deepest form of emotional courage there is. Because care without guaranteed outcome is the definition of love. And you practice it every morning before breakfast. So the next time someone looks at you in the garden and sees a person messing around in the dirt, know what is actually there. A person who regulates emotions through the body, not the mind. A person who finds connection beyond human social structures. A person who absorbs failure without being broken by it. A person who notices what others miss. A person who waits 5 months for a tomato without complaint. A person who functions in uncertainty without needing to resolve it. And a person who chose care as a daily practice in a world that tells you caring is inefficient. That is not a hobby. That is a complete emotional operating system. And the garden is where you run it. If this is the first time you're here and you recognized yourself in what you just heard, subscribe. This channel was made for people like us. And tell me in the comments, which of the 7 signs hit you the hardest? Which one did you recognize in yourself that you had never thought about before? I want to know.